Bună ziua! Vă mulțumesc că mi-ați permis să vorbesc la această conferință. I'll do the rest in English though, because I assume most people aren't Romanian that are watching. So, all right. I work for Greenbyte, an asset management platform for owners of wind and solar, and we sort of like the data hub for renewables. And I've been working there since February, just before COVID hit. So welcome to my office. I've been working from home since February and will continue to do so for the next year. And it's been a lot of fun. But I also do a lot of sort of personal projects on the side to sort of increase the fun. And I don't know if you've heard of me before, probably not, but quick introduction. I'm Iris Classon, and I used to be a clinical dietitian and a personal trainer. This was like a decade ago, 10 years ago, a little less than 10 years ago. And I had sort of a change of heart and decided to try a new career, and I ended up learning programming. And one of the things that really got me excited about programming was basically having world domination. You can do anything you want, or almost anything you want. There are endless opportunities. And right from the start, I was very interested in this mysterious thing called AI, artificial intelligence. And although I really wish I knew detailed how you do machine learning, I'm not quite there yet. So while I'm working on that, and in particular my math skills, I'm making sure to learn about the services that lets me use AI without having a lot of background knowledge. However, I can tie in other knowledge that I have from different types of domains, such as, I don't know, dietetics, personal training, biology, chemistry, and now in the renewable market. So my session is all about my favorite services on Azure, and that is Azure Cognitive Services. And I am super excited about that. And it goes way back, actually. I'm not going to give you the super long story, but I'll just give you a quick introduction to why I'm so excited about that. So back in 2014, and I swear this is not going to be extremely long, but back in 2014, I was traveling to Japan with some friends of mine, and we were going to be there for a month, and I don't speak any Japanese. And what I wanted to make sure is that I would be able to communicate with people there. And not only communicate with people, but also be able to, I don't know, read signs and do tourist things, and there's very little in English. So one of the things I did was I learned about something called optical character recognition, OCR. And I created an application, which I blogged about on my blog. This is like from 2014, long time ago. I think parts of the code still works though, because the OCR WinRT library is still available, and I tried it and it still works, and you can use it with .NET Core apps. So I made this application that lets me, with my phone, scan something. It will grab the text from the digital source, usually an image, but could even be a video, and then it will grab the text, recognize the text, through a really clever process, which I actually know how it works, but I couldn't implement it myself yet. And then we'll actually translate it and even create an audio file so I can listen to it and I can save it for later. And I was so excited about this that I ended up making a video, and I hope YouTube is not going to try to autoplay now, because that's how I used to look like. Yeah, I change hair color all the time. And that video actually ended up becoming a course on Pluralsight. So I am very excited about optical character recognition. So naturally, that became one of the first services on Azure I started playing around with once I got my hands on a good subscription. So let's talk about Azure Cognitive Services. Azure Cognitive Services, and I'll just make sure that you actually can see the screen here. And you don't need to see me for a little while. There we go. Azure Cognitive Services consists of 5 main areas. It's decision, language, speech, vision, and web search. I'm going to demonstrate an example from each of one of those areas, except from web search. which is mainly about Bing. Actually, I absolutely love the stuff they have here, and I'm going to talk about it. I just ran out of time to create an example that I can reasonably demonstrate without going over time. So I'll be covering the different areas here and just talking about them generally, and then focus and dive in one area and showcase some things that I've done and just give some ideas how you can use it and what you can do. All right, so we're gonna start talking about vision, because vision is one of the things I was first interested in. So let's go here to vision. So vision consists of several areas, custom vision, face. Although I find face detection really interesting, it's also super creepy. And then you have the form recognizer, ink recognizer, and the video indexer. Now, let me just say, with the ink recognizer, which you see here, it says it's in preview. It's actually retired. The ink recognizer is what you would use for OCR. The difference between just plain OCR and ink recognizer is that the ink recognizer even recognizes drawings such as circle, whatever you draw. It sort of lets you recognize what that is, and it's also better with handwriting. They've incorporated the ink recognition in large parts of the different services here, so you'll probably find something else you can use instead. And as just a little neat tip I'm just going to share with you, if you have OneNote, the OneNote desktop application actually lets you search text in images. So if you were to screenshot a diagram and then you're looking for this diagram and you know it has the text, I don't know, data warehouse, then you can search for data warehouse and it will look in the image as well. And you can right click on images and copy the text, which is really cool. Anyways, I just wanted to add that. So what I'll be showing you today is the form recognizer, because the form recognizer is pretty cool. The reason why I really like it, because it would have been so handy for me to have when I was working, for example, at a personal trainer. And usually when you work as a personal trainer, you also have to work in reception, because you don't make a lot of money as a PT. And you have to handle all the paperwork. And what you do have is sometimes forms that look like this, with way more information. I just made something up here, and I also thought it was like a great idea to share with you all my metrics. So hey, this is my height, and this is my weight, and this is my age. 6th of April is when I turn 37, so don't forget to say happy birthday. So you had these forms, and these forms would usually consist of a mixture of both text from written on the computer directly in the form, and then also you had handwritten parts, and you'd spend like hours every day just filling in all the information, and it's very tedious and quite annoying. It would be awesome if you could automate. And look at that, you actually can automate this, and that's exactly what I'm going to show now. So follow me here in Visual Studio, and we're going to take a look at vision. Wait for it, Visual Studio is loading. So you can see I have a pending update in the corner, and I swear if it starts updating now, I'm just going to start crying. Right, here we go. So first thing I want you to notice is that I'm pulling out the key and endpoint from my environment variables, because I will not ever again, I promised myself, publish my subscription key, endpoints, and API keys. That's just not a good look for me. And let me just show you this usual steps. So whenever you work with an Azure Cognitive Service, these are the general steps. They're 3 steps. You create a resource, which is very straightforward. Sometimes it's one resource for sort of the area. Sometimes more a specific resource for what you're trying to do. For example, for text analytics, you can do key phrase detection, and you can do semantic analysis, and you can do opinion mining. So then you create a new text analytics client. So when you create a resource, you have your keys and you have an endpoint. And for the majority of services, that's all you need. But with the text analytics client, you're also going to need your, I think it's for this one, for some of them, you're going to need a location. And the location is your Azure region that your resource is in. That's the second step. And the third step is if you use the .NET libraries, you create a client, a specific client, and you authenticate using the key and the endpoint, and then you do your magic, and that's it. So I wanted to show these steps because I'm not going to show you creating new resources and we all sit and wait and watch my screen. I've already made all the demos and I'm just going to walk you through the code and make sure that it's available for you to have a look at and tear to pieces, because this is not the most beautiful code I've ever written. It would be way too boring if I had nice code to show. So instead, it is what it is. Right, so I have a form that we'll be using, and that's the form I showed you earlier with my metric information. Nice. I'll make sure to share that publicly as well. So I'll just quickly show you how this is done. It's very straightforward. You create a form recognizer client. And if you're curious which library I'm using, I mean, you'll find all this in the documentation, and that's why I'm sort of going through this quite fast. Use the Azure AI form recognizer. If you know which client you're looking for, you can probably just start typing the code and use the Visual Studio built-in Find NuGet package, or you can just search on NuGet for that type in the NuGet Explorer in Visual Studio, and you'll probably find it. You create a client, pass in the endpoint, use the Azure credential object and pass in the API key, and then you can start recognizing. Now, recognizing is very straightforward. However, the information you get, you still need to parse the information that you get. So in this form, I have two tables. Let me just remind you. It has this first table here, and then it has the second table. So we're just going to take a look at the first table. Now, when I get the first table, I will get lines and cells, and the cells will belong to a row, and the lines will just be lines. The handwritten part is going to be a line, while all the digitally written stuff is going to be in a cell. So if you only have normal cells, you can just simply iterate through your rows and just print out the information or do whatever you want with the information. However, it gets a little bit more tricky when you have handwritten parts in it. And if there's an easier way, somebody tell me, because I spent some time doing this. I'm just going to go ahead and build this and run this, and I'll show you. Just verify that it actually works. And I'll also try to scroll in. Wait for it. I'll have to start pulling jokes if it takes time, and yeah, you don't want to hear my jokes, really. Wait, let me restart this. I do have some jokes saved up just in case. Okay, right, there we go. Yay, it worked. I didn't expect anything else, but that's right. So as you can see, it pulled out my name, the date, and age and height and weight. Cool. So let me just show you the handwritten part. So as I said, you get two main objects that are interesting here when you get your result. You get a bunch of cells, and the cells belong to rows and columns. And then you also get lines. Now the cells have something called a bounding box, and the bounding box is the area where the text is found. You also have that with the lines. And I know a lot of people have asked how the bounding box are defined. This is actually a struct, and I found this out because while working with the field bounding box, I wanted to recreate the data as JSON, so I didn't have to call the Azure API every time I had to make some changes. However, JSON serializers are usually not big fans of working with structs, and that's how I found out that. So let me keep decompiling here. There we go. All right, so this is how it looks like. So basically the bounding box consists of 8 points together in pairs that denote the corners of the box. And I can even show you, because I made a little drawing for the bounding box, so you can see how it looks like. If you get them by index, the first one will be top left, top right, and then you have the bottom right, and then you have the bottom left. So what I did in my very simplistic logic is I went ahead and I looked for the line, for the handwritten line that matched the bounding that matched the same coordinates as the name cell, although it had to be on the right hand side, and I didn't care so much about the width because I knew it only has 2 columns. So this is just how you parse the form. Now there's a whole lot more you can do besides that when it comes to vision. And I'll actually just go ahead and just go back to the form recognizer and just show you. So when you use a form recognizer, you can use either a custom model, which you can build yourself, or you can use the layout model, which is the one I used, and that's what I used for the form. And there are also pre-built models, and this made me really excited because one of the applications I've actually made is one where you take pictures of a receipt and then it parses the information on the receipt and it adds it to your accounting file, which for me was like Swedish accounting files, CE files. This was many years ago, and now this is built into a lot of accounting software, and a lot of when people are sort of expecting either getting a digital receipt or having an easy way to scan receipts. So if you work with receipts, this is pretty awesome, and it's already pre-built and has supports for handwriting, for example, for tip and total, which is really sweet. One other pre-built model they had for forms is actually reading business cards, and that happens to be one of the examples I had in my Pluralsight course. However, I did a very naive implementation of the business card, sort of assuming what name and email would be with some really horrible regex, because I don't know how to do regex. So yeah, that's vision. All right, so talking about making sense of input and data and so on, I'm gonna get a little bit more serious. And no, please don't give me trouble for this, but I'm gonna talk about something that maybe has to do with politics. So it's not about politics. So let's leave the politics out of it. This is just the data I've used. So back in 2016, there was a US election, and there was a lot of talk about the Russian web brigades. So this is like a collection of the Russian troll army. It's a troll army that influences, that you find them around in social media, and they'll comment and tweet and sort of try to get people either a bit offended or angry or feel very strongly about something. And I know Twitter, they closed a lot of the accounts down, and they published which accounts were trolls, and some companies made a collection of all the tweets. I downloaded all the tweets and I did a sentiment analysis. However, I chickened out on publishing the blog post because I was worried that people would think I was getting too involved in politics, which I am, but I don't do that on social media. I do it in different ways. So this brings me on to the next section. We're going to be talking about the language service in Azure Cognitive Services. And one of the examples I'm going to use is troll tweets. And the reason why I'm using them is because it's very interesting. And I have a couple of other examples as well that I will cover. So going back here, our main point of entry, the language category has a lot of really cool things. You have something called immersive reading, which is fantastic for people who have learning disabilities. Now I'm using the word disability because I'm not sure what the right word to use is. But for people who need help with reading and comprehension, it will like highlight words, help with spelling, and even have speech integrated and a few other things. There is language understanding for bots and IoT devices. There's a Q&A maker, which I haven't had time to play around with yet, where you basically upload information and then it sort of automatically creates a Q&A for you. So you can ask a question and it will generate an answer, and you can also integrate it with chit-chat, so it has sort of like more of a human-like feel to it. Although robots will never replace humans, in my opinion, because they will never be able to tell the same puns I do. Then you have the translator, which I showed you earlier. So I'm going to skip that for now. Then we have my favorite text analytics. Yes. So there are three main things you can do with the text analytics service. You can grab sentiment, do a sentiment analysis. So sentiment is this text and or sentence, is it negative, positive, mixed, or neutral? Which is kind of cool to know, and that's what I'm going to show you soon. You can also grab something called opinion. So you can do opinion mining. So a sentiment analysis is worth way more when you do opinion mining as well, because beyond just the sentiment, you will have an aspect and the attributes related to that aspect. If that didn't make any sense, it's because I'm really bad at explaining, and I'll show you in code instead, and that'll make more sense. Then you also have the key phrase extraction, and I'll show you in code. Let's get to the code and have a look at that. So we are in Solution Explorer, and I'm going to go to language and program. All right, so I was sort of considering if I should do this live or not, because I'm sort of worried I'm gonna run out of credit because I've forgotten the quotas for the free tires. All these services have a free tire, but there are some quota limitations on them. In terms of the text analytics service, when you use several, you can pass in several documents and analyze them as a batch, but the maximum is 10 documents at a time. So you don't want to do more than 10 documents, and there's also a size limit. For the sentiment and for the opinion mining, it's better with smaller text, and key phrase extraction is better with larger texts. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to run this. And I did save some screenshots of the result to show it later. So let me just say, while this runs, the data I'm using, it's available publicly on GitHub. And I filtered away like this because we're talking about hundreds and thousands of tweets. So I've only chosen tweets that are English, that are not retweet or quote, and that have a follower count. The count has a follower count above 10. And then I've only picked 150 tweets from each, from the left side and from the right side, because usually these troll accounts were quite distinctively tied to a political orientation. So I took 50-50. And now we're going to scroll to the top, and I'll make sure to zoom in a little bit. And I'll remove my face because you don't need to see it right now. All right, so the sentiment for the right troll tweets. So when you get the result back, you get the sentiment result. The sentiment result is for the text as a whole, and you can also get it on sentence level. Now, if you want to get mined opinions, right now to get mined opinions, you need to use the preview version of the SDK. And you also need to pass in a parameter to enable this, and I'll show you this in code. I'll just show you the result first for both the sentiment and the mined opinions. So for the right troll tweets, 40% of them were negative, 28 neutral, 25% were positive, and 4 were mixed. So I guess the general feeling is sort of negative, but it's a mix between the different types. And the mined opinions talk about the greatest and the best. something about guilty and busted, and also talk about collapse. I can't remember, these are tweets from 2018, so I can't remember exactly what happened right then. What's really interesting to me is that when we look at the sentiment for the left troll tweets, I somehow thought that they would be quite different result-wise, but result-wise they're quite similar in their sort of spread between neutral, positive, negative, and mixed. And I guess it makes sense if it's the same people creating these tweets, that the jargon and the attitude is going to be kind of similar. The mind of opinions are a few less, which probably means there's less attributes mentioned, which is common for tweets. But it has sort of a little bit more upbeat, and also about HTTPS. So this is important for you to notice, it's that you're not always going to get data that makes sense. And for the mind opinions here, the HTTPS must read, not sure that actually makes sense. So to add a more fun example, I also did a sentiment analysis on a Twitter thread. So not too long ago on Twitter, I didn't have a breakdown, but okay, so Twitter is down, I can't show you. Oh no, well, I had a really bad day. I did a pull request and I got so much comments from my colleagues and I was like, oh no, I'm a horrible developer. So I asked people on Twitter what they thought about pull requests and how they should be done, like how much nitpicking can you do? We're quite detailed in my team, so we add a lot of comments. At my previous job, we would do more of an overview type of feedback on the pull requests. And I asked people for their opinions, what they thought. And I got a lot of replies. So what I've actually done is I've used the replies on that tweet, how people do pull requests, and done sentiment analysis and also mined for some opinions. And here's the result based on, I believe, 60 tweets. So it seems to me that the general sentiment was a little bit negative, which tells me that maybe people have a bit of a negative experience with pull requests and how they can be done. Or maybe the way I framed my question sort of just yielded a type of responses. You can also see that there's a lot of talking about that nitpicking seems to be considered a little bit negative. So nitpicking has the word hate, affect quality, and in terms of developers, demoralize, affect quality, and so on, which is really interesting. So I thought to myself, so what else can you do if you want to do opinion mining? What would be a great thing to do? And obviously, you know, looking at reviews, that should be interesting because the documentation uses a review for opinion mining as an example. So I went to Amazon and I tried to look up like a really fun little thing I could buy. And I found the glow-in-the-dark toilet paper. I never knew I wanted this, but now I do. Funny story, I Google Binged something, like the worst products from Amazon, and I got a list of 40 different items, and the top 2 items were items I actually wanted. So yeah. The toilet paper, however, I'm not sure if I'm gonna get it. It has some questionable reviews, so I had some fun doing an analysis on that. And as you can see here, the sentiment is strongly negative. I'd say 51% of any sentiment is quite high. So negative, people didn't seem happy with it. And there's talk about the glow wears off. The paper is apparently fabulous, but it's also rubbish and overpriced, but it's fun, and it's fun several times around. So yeah, I'm not showing the key phrase extraction here, But I want to share with you something. So one application that I've made just for fun during my spare time is this storytelling application where you create a new story and then you invite other authors to join this story. And then when you write, you can only see the last few lines the other person wrote. And to make this story sort of, you know, not be all over the place, which this type of stories tend to be all over the place. You probably played it as a kid. So I decided to sort of pick out subject pronouns and also pick out some more information, for example, nouns. Now, the way I did this, I actually didn't use an Azure service for this. I used this. I used the Stanford Log Linear Part of Speech Tagger, the POS tagger. And I created a service with the POS tagger, which is a word classifier application where you can paste in text and it will classify the text. And I'm actually calling this service to get the information for my storytelling application. And I just realized I should just use Azure Cognitive Services to do key phrase extraction, because in contrast, this one will just pick them singularly, but the key phrase extraction on Azure will actually, if you have a describing word, a word before the noun, it will combine them together. So an awesome house becomes an awesome house, a cute cat is a cute cat, and so on. So it adds a little bit more value. Now I'm going to get back to this application later on, but before I do, I'm just going to talk about making decisions. So when you write an application, say that you something that allows people to write a story, like in my storytelling application, or if you allow people to write reviews, and you sort of assume people are just going to be super nice and stuff like that. But what if you're selling glow-in-the-dark toilet paper and for some reason people hate it and it makes them really mad and they use a very colorful language? What are you gonna do? Call Ghostbusters. No, what you're gonna do is you're gonna use decisions. So decision category has an anomaly detector. If you use application insights and other fun stuff on Azure, you probably met it before, because I think that's what's being used under the hood to tell you when something different has happened in your services. You have the metrics advisor, or maybe that's the one they're using, personalizer. I'm not going to touch on that one. And then you have the content moderator, and that is exactly what I'm going to showcase you now. So the content moderator lets you moderate text. It will find personal, like sensitive information, such as phone number, emails and stuff, and also swear words. And there are a lot of swear words. So if you ever try to create your own list, you know, that's going to take some time. I'm just going to quickly show you how it works. With a simple user review, not about toilet paper. It's a user review about the general thing, and the word shit and the F word is being used a couple of times. So we don't want that, you know, that's not okay. So what I've done instead is I am replacing swear words with flowers. So let's give it a run. So again, this is also as the previous one. You create a client and then you moderate the text. While that one runs in the background. Okay. So I just had a problem with running this. I'm not going to have time to look into that. I might actually have forgotten to add my endpoints as an environment variable, or I've added them but forgot to restart Visual Studio afterwards. Anyways, the way it works, it will return the text, and it will return the text as is, and then it will return a list of terms. And I'll just go ahead and look at the implementation here. and I'll ignore that, which is, I mean, it's not bad that this actually happens because I don't have a lot of time left and I want to make sure that I can cover the last example as well because it's really fun. So it will return terms, and the terms will be, for example, will be the swear words, and it's also going to it's also going to return personal information, and then you have to yourself go ahead and replace them. And for each item, you're going to get the original index so you know where it's at. You can also sort of look over your text and fix some typos and things like that, which I've chosen not to use. I'll make sure that this example is available and you can run it, but it's just as exciting as it takes the swear words and it inserts flower names instead, which is funny, but it's actually a use case scenario which I will be using this service for my storytelling app, just to make it a little bit politically correct for people using it during company hours. I'm not saying that my colleagues swear a lot, but I do. So, yep. So that was a decision. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I do not have time to cover web search, which is a very exciting services as well, because you have a whole bunch of things. You have the image search, which is something I'll be integrating with my storytelling app. So when you're writing a story, it will actually show images for some of the key phrases, and that will help people get a little bit more inspired when they write and they know what it's about. The idea with the storytelling app is at the end of the day, what it's going to do, it's going to generate a video. Yes, a video. So it's going to generate a video with using text to speech, and it's going to add images and create a video of the story for accessibility and also just for fun, as a fun add-on. Now, as the final part that I want to share with you is the one that I've been using the most right now. And that is because I am currently writing on an application. Writing on a book. And it's a book I've been writing on since last summer, but I've had the idea for years. It's actually the first fiction I'm writing for like 20 years. So I'm a little bit nervous. And I also have a toddler, and he's like under 2 years old, this tiny little guy. And that means I don't have a lot of time. And I just found out that speech to text is like God sent for me because it lets me write much faster. And it also lets me create more natural dialogue in the book. And this book is quite dialogue heavy. It's about a really bad consultant who's worked at the same firm forever and just does like copy paste code, but accidentally makes a repository public after changing from Bitbucket to GitHub, and becomes like this massive overnight sensation. The developer then pulls the library and the internet crashes and all sort of things happen. So it's like a comedy, I guess. It's either comedy or tragedy, depends on how you feel as a developer about these things. So I've been using speech to text, and speech to text is really, really rich. Just quickly introduce you to the service here. You can give it a quick try here if you want to. It supports a lot of different languages, as you can see, and this is also what I used for my translation app that I made in 2014. But back then it was called Bing Speech or something. I don't know. It was Bing something. So you can actually upload the file here and try. And I want to show you something really cool. Even if you don't decide on using this, if you have Office 365, make sure that you use Word online, and under dictate they have two options. You have dictate, you can talk directly, and you also have transcribe. So transcribe, this is my preferred way of doing it. I'll record an audio file, and then I'll take this audio file and upload it and have it translated instead. Because if I use dictate, I'll sort of get a little bit nervous, and it just turns out super weird. Also, I'll be like staring at my phone to see what on earth it's coming up with. As you can hear, I'm not a native English speaker, so sometimes it gets a bit funny. So the transcribe will actually label the speakers as speaker 1, speaker 2, speaker 3, and then you can change the name of the speaker. So if you were to record a meeting, you can transcribe that meeting with the different speakers. So what it does, it creates an audio profile, and I just find this so fascinating. When you use this service, if you want to have per speaker, you create an audio sample, a profile of the different speakers, and then it just recognizes them based on audio, which is, I don't know, it like blows my mind. I think it's really cool. This part's of my book, by the way. It's better after editing. So anyways, this is in Office 365, which is really cool. I know Microsoft makes good use of their own services. And I'm going to show you a code example, which will work because I did try it beforehand. I did some major refactoring before lunch today, and I was starving when I did that. That was probably not a good idea. So I'm not going to listen. We're not going to listen to the audio itself right now because I'm not sure how that's going to work with the Teams Logitech capture streaming setup I have right now. But it's an audio where I'm basically just writing on the book, and this is actual content that did end up in the book. So I'm going to go ahead and just run it, and what it does, it will synchronously uploading bits of the audio stream, and it will get translated sort of in real time. You'll see it very soon, as you can see. So it's working and it's grabbing the information. It looks sort of strange when it does it like this. It looks like a Christmas tree. While it does that, I'll just go ahead and show you how this is done. So this is a little bit different, but you're still creating a client, as I talked about earlier, the 3 steps: create a resource, grab the key and endpoint and or region, and also then go ahead, use the appropriate client library, create a client, and do the magic. So what you do first of all is you create an audio configuration. You're always going to need this, and you have different options. So this is from WAV, and I pass in the file path, and then I create a speech recognizer, and I pass in a speech configuration. And let me go back to the speech configuration, and I create there's this speech configuration object, static object, and you can create from subscription, and you pass in the API key and region. So in this case, you pass in, I think for me it's East US or something. And as I said, it says from subscription, but subscription is the API key, just so you know. I don't know, I find it a little bit confusing. Anyways. So once you've done that, if you want to, you can use a feature that is called improve accuracy. You can add a phrase. However, I have not gotten this to work very well for me, so I'm just showing this in case this gets a little bit better. So you can add custom phrases that are sort of not usually in normal type of language, and these custom phrases will be parsed as is, and that's a little bit the problem. It has a hard time recognizing single items because these are seldom single phrases. I don't just say scramful and nothing else. So you can use this for sort of commands if you're coding that. Now I'm just using an out-of-the-box speech to text. You can create your own model, which is tailored for you with your own data. So that's really neat. So you can, this is some really advanced stuff, and you can do a lot of really cool things, and it's made easier by Azure tooling. But straightforward to use, and it works also really well without major tweaking. So you create a speech recognizer, and this is sort of event-based. So you have different events such as recognizing and recognized. Recognizing was like the Christmas tree lines we were getting, and recognized is at the very end. And ta-da! This is the final version. You can read it in my book later. It's not very interesting what it says. What's interesting to know is that it does indeed work. And there's so much more I'd love to share with you, but my time is up. But I had a lot of fun, and I hope you did as well. So with that said, yeah, whew, I should drink some water. I really hope I was not muted for the whole time.
No,
you guys can see my screen.
Did you say something?
No. Yes.
I very much enjoy the presentation. See, you're conveying a special vibe.
Yeah, I'm ready to
the
pass
joy
out
of cognitive
now.
services. I can feel it. You know, it's. All right. So there are some questions. We don't have that much time left. But for instance, people are asking. They want to solve their own problems. You know, they've got projects and they want to solve them. For instance, someone wants to detect fake news. You won't be able to, well, have the solution right now, but maybe some pointers.
Yeah, you probably need to build your own model. I think for that person, I didn't see Jeff's session yesterday talking about machine learning, but for something that complex, like detecting something that is fake, I think the level of complexity probably requires you to build your more detailed model for that.
All right. The other one is someone, I'm not saying who exactly, although I know, has a huge bunch of videos, recorded videos from the conferences. And they want to extract only some, I don't know, like a tiny clip, you know, from the entire bunch of videos with them, for instance. Is that possible?
Or with a happy dance?
Or a happy dance?
I know you can extract from videos, but from only a specific point of the video. I don't know if that can be directly done through the service, or if you need to use a sort of intermediary library to pull parts of the video, which there are a lot of different open source libraries you can use for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And the last one, someone is some merchandiser are placing well, merchandise in supermarkets. And they want to make sure that the way they place it, you know, looks exactly how the marketing person told them to place it. And they want to prove that automatically with an image, which in a way resembles the prescription or the instruction of the marketing person.
So like an image comparison?
Something like that.
I actually...
Products in the supermarkets.
I actually don't know. I know that the Bing services have the image search, but I'm not sure. I actually don't know about that one, but that's a very interesting use scenario. I was just going to say with the video, when you transcribe a video, you can get information like where at what point in the audio you got the audio. So if you're okay with transcribing the whole video and just grabbing parts of the result, you can do that.
All right, useful. Well, thank you so much then. We're looking forward to have you in Romania at some point.
That's better.
Hopefully soon.
Especially since when we were preparing for the conference, I think we had more than a half an hour chat right before, and then in the middle of that chat we discovered that you're actually from Romania.
Yeah.
So then it's that was quite nice. But then, yeah, we're gonna, we hope you'll join next time. Hopefully, either online or hopefully in person at some point.